Greetings, brothers and sisters. Today we will be on chapter 14 of Knowing the Living God. God is omnipresent. And we'll go ahead and get started. All right, chapter 14. God is omnipresent. The word omnipresent comes from the Latin word omnipresens. Omni equals all, plus presens equals present, and refers to the state of being present. Yeah, let me turn this mic on. Start over real quick. All right. The word omnipresent comes from the Latin word omnipresens. Omnis equals all, and presens equals present, and refers to the state of being present everywhere at once. When the Bible speaks of God as omnipresent, it means that he is always present in every place in his fullness. Omnipresence does not mean that part of God is in China and another part of God is in England, but that all of God is everywhere at once. Although the universe itself cannot contain God, God is present in all his fullness in every place. For the Christian, the omnipresence of God instills great confidence and comfort. Every believer, from the greatest to the smallest, benefits from God's undivided presence. For the unbeliever, the omnipresence of God instills terror, because there is no possibility of hiding or escaping from his presence. All right, number one. In 1 Kings 8 is found an account of the dedication of the temple of God that Solomon built in Jerusalem. What did Solomon declare in 1 Kings 8, verse 27? What does his declaration teach us about the omnipresence of God? According to this text, should we think that God is somehow confined to our modern day church buildings? And 1 Kings 8, verse 27 reads, "But will God really live on earth? Why, even the highest heavens cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built?" In this verse, Solomon is expressing the idea that God, being infinite and all-encompassing, cannot be contained within the physical temple he built. Even though the temple is meant to be a place where God's presence is felt, especially felt, essentially saying that while the temple is significant, it cannot fully encapsulate the vastness of God, who dwells in heaven and is not limited by any physical space. Okay, number two, in the following scriptures are found several important texts regarding the omnipresence of God and its implications for all men. Write a summary of each passage in your own words. Now we will be in Psalm 139. Psalm 139, 7 through 10. Okay, and Psalm 139, 7 through 10 reads, "I can never escape from your spirit. I can never get away from your presence. If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I go down to the grave, you are there. If I ride the wings of the morning, if I dwell by the farthest oceans. Even there, your hand will guide me and your strength will support me." And these verses are saying that God is omnipresent, meaning that He is everywhere, and it is impossible to escape His presence. The doctrine of God's omnipresence is taught in Psalm 139 and in other places in the Bible. The knowledge of God's presence comforted David. It can also comfort us and encourage us to trust that God will lead us and keep us safe. All right, B is going to be Jeremiah 23. Jeremiah 23, verses 23 through 24. Jeremiah 23. Okay, Jeremiah 23, verses 23 and 24 read, Am I a God who is only close at hand, says the Lord? No, I am far away at the same time. Can anyone hide from me in a secret place? Am I not everywhere in all the heavens and earth, says the Lord? This passage is emphasizing that God is everywhere and can see everything, including secret places and the thoughts of people. It also conveys that God is infinite and has no limits. And this can be a reminder that nothing can be hidden from God and that people should not think they can escape His presence. And now we will be in Acts 17, verses 24 through 28. Let's see, Acts. Okay. And these verses read, He is the God who made the world and everything in it, since He is Lord of heaven and earth. He doesn't live in man-made temples, and human hands can't serve His needs, for He has no needs. He Himself gives life and breath to everything, and He satisfies every need. From one man He created all the nations throughout the whole earth. He decided beforehand when they should rise and fall, and He determined their boundaries. His purpose was for the nations to seek after God and perhaps feel their way toward Him and find Him, though He is not far from any one of us. For in Him we live and move and exist. As some of your own poets have said, we are His offspring. All right, Acts 17, 24 through 28. And these verses are signifying that God, as the creator of the universe and the source of all life, is not confined to man-made temples, and that all people, regardless of their origin, live, move, and have their being in Him, meaning our very existence is dependent on Him. God is the ultimate source of life and is omnipresent, not limited to any one physical location. The phrase, in Him we live and move and exist, is extremely important, which is out of verse 28. There is no place that he is not. Furthermore, all things were made by him and continue to be sustained by him. He set the universe in motion and sustains it. The most colossal star and the smallest particle exist because of him. The life of every creature, great or small, is dependent upon him. And next passage, or next verse, we will be in Deuteronomy 4, verse 7. Deuteronomy 4, verse 7. And this verse reads, "For what great nation has a God as near to them as the Lord our God is near to us whenever we call on him?" And this is emphasizing that God is close to his people and that he is always ready to listen to them. So God is readily accessible and always present for those who seek him. This encourages us to confidently approach God in prayer and trust in his constant nearness. Okay, and now we will be back in Psalm. We will be in Psalm 46, verse 1. Psalm 46, verse 1. I'll look this up on my phone as well. Psalm 46, verse 1. God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. And this is a reminder of God's protection, strength, and presence. It can be a source of hope and assurance in difficult times. This can also encourage us to trust in God during difficult times. And he is always available, day or night. All right, next verse will still be in Psalm, but we will be in Psalm 145. Verses 18 to 19. All right, Psalm 145, verses 18 and 19. The Lord is close to all who call on him. Yes, to all who call on him in truth. He grants the desires of those who fear him. He hears our cries for help and rescues them. And these two verses are talking about God's willingness to be close to those who seek him. They also highlight the importance of sincerity and authenticity in one's relationship with God. The Lord is near to all who call upon him, to all who call upon him sincerely and in truth. Okay, moving on to the next verse, we will be in Isaiah. Well, I guess the next verse is Isaiah 43, verses 1 and 2. Okay, Isaiah 43, verses 1 to 2 read, But now, O Jacob, listen to the Lord who created you. O Israel, the one who formed you says, Do not be afraid, for I have ransomed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you go through deep waters, I will be with you. When you go through rivers of difficulty, you will not drown. When you walk through the fire of oppression, you will not be burned up. The flames will not consume you. And this passage is a promise from God to Israel, but it can also be applied to individuals. It conveys that God is with his people through trials and that we do not need to fear. It also emphasizes that God knows us very close. I guess as close as you can get. But the verse can also be a reminder that we will face trials in life, but we have to remember the promise of God's presence and salvation. And that should make us rather calm, have a calming feeling that everything's already taken care of and accounted for. And there's no need to be dismayed or worried about anything. Next verse, this will actually be our last verse in this chapter. This was a short chapter, by the way. Matthew 28, verse 20. Matthew 28, verse 20. Okay, Matthew 28, verse 20 reads, Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. This verse is also considered the conclusion of the Great Commission. And this is where Jesus is instructing he will always be with them. And this verse is, again, often called the Great Commission. This instructs us to actively share our faith by making disciples of all nations, teaching them to obey everything Jesus commanded with the assurance that he will always be with them. Essentially calling us to actively spread the gospel and live accordingly to Jesus' teachings, and to know that we are not alone in this mission. Okay, and this concludes chapter 14, God is Omnipresent. Next week we'll be on chapter 15, God is omniscient. Yeah, God is omniscient. The word omniscience comes from the Latin word omnis, equaling all, and sense, from scire, to know. And this is referring to the attribute of possessing all knowledge. Okay, so you all have a good week. And next week will be chapter 15, God is omniscient. I think I'm saying that right. God is omniscient or omniscience. Well, God is omniscient. But I think that stems from the word omniscience. But okay, you all have a great week. And I will see y'all next week for chapter 15, God is omniscient.